The challenges facing our teens today mean that more than ever, we need to be there to support them and encourage them. The Dr. STEM Show is here to provide discussions about topics that will help promote healthy relationships, self-image, and success for teens, parents, and the community. Our young people can achieve more in life than they ever dreamed possible. The Dr. STEM Show, hosted by Dr. Stem Malatini, will foster these discussions and encourage your participation.
Today we're going to talk politics. As you know, politics plays a big role in selecting leaders in every country that you're in. So I have a special guest who has volunteered and accepted to teach us and talk to us about politics. I also want to say a quick disclaimer that our show is a community access television where we allow and accept anyone to come and educate the community about your party, what you stand for. So as we are preparing for elections next Tuesday, March 2nd, is it? March 1st. We're going to be talking about that as well as preparation for re-election for the President of the United States as a whole. So welcome to the Dr. STEM Show, and I want to welcome my guest, Marsha Finkelstein.
Thank you for having me. Always glad to spend some quality time with my friend Stem.
Yes. Before we started recording, I was talking to you about how this show actually started, with me discussing with you probably 3-4 years ago and saying, I want to be on TV. And you said, you know what? You actually look like Oprah or something like that. Remember?
Yes. It was a couple of years back, and that I vaguely remember that conversation. Doesn't surprise me that you took it and ran with it.
Took it and ran with it. So today I want to thank you for coming to the show. And before we start, I think I'll just ask you to tell the audience, who is Marsha?
Well, what I'm about is I've been a community organizer and activist, very strong Democrat. I currently chair of the Salem Democratic City Committee, so I work with a lot of different people from different walks of life, and we have a lot of strong Democrats in Salem, which is a blessing. I grew up in a large family, so I learned very quickly how to fight for what I believed in, and it really was up to me. If I wanted something, I had to fight for it. So that's pretty much, what I'm about. I love the causes that we stand for: income equality, Black Lives Matter, gender balance. It's all important to me, and I want to do as much as I can to help educate people and engage people in the political process and understand the importance of voting and why someone who's young or young at heart should exercise their right as a citizen to get out and vote.
You're right. And that's the reason why, as you know, I work a lot with a lot of teenagers and, the younger generation. And what I've noticed is they're the difference makers, because then, between the age of 18 to about 35, they really are making a difference on whether a candidate, get to win or not. So I wanted us to talk about politics in a sense where we're educating that immigrant family that came here but now are eligible to vote, but don't understand what it means and how to get involved. So in order to start there, I just want to start off with how you got to be involved in politics and what that meant for you. Were you a teenager? Were you a young adult? How did it start?
I saw from what I grew up in, and in my family, we voted. My parents were very good voters, as we like to refer to this in politics as a super voter, which means they vote in every single election. And I remember going to the polls with my dad when I was a kid, and there was something really visceral about that. Where I grew up, the polling machines had levers, and there was something like about flipping the lever for your candidate. So when I turned 18, I was walking around my campus because I was in college at the time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I'm 18. I can register to vote. I was really excited. I have no idea why I was so excited. And then I was just like, okay. And I registered and I voted. And that happened to be a presidential year. I'm not going to say which year, but it happened to be a presidential year. And I was like, it was the first time I'd ever voted. And I voted in a presidential race. So it was very exciting for me.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, it was my civic duty, but it was also something I felt like I was part of this country as a citizen, exercising that basic right that I earned by being born here and being of a certain age and taking that step to register, because that is potentially a major barrier to someone of any age, background, just getting to that registration and having that right.
So what I'm understanding you to say is, in order for change to happen, it actually begins with you going out and voting and, making selections of what, that change is going to be about. Because then the younger generation, they want to understand, what difference does it make if I go to vote? And what does that mean for me to vote?
One of the things that I've always have always found very frustrating in the engagement part is trying to explain to somebody and helping them understand that if you're in a particular, let's say, your particular gender or you have a particular background. Say, I actually had this conversation about a year ago with a former colleague at work who is Latino, who's much older than me, refused to register to vote, even though he's a citizen. And we had this very thorough conversation about, but you're a citizen, you should register to vote. And if you choose not to vote, that's fine, but register. And the response I got from this man was, well, they don't care. Like, my vote won't matter. And my response back to him was, that's what they want you to believe. So the people in power that want to, let me say, oppress or make it difficult for people to be represented from certain communities, they like it when people that look like you or people that are, speak another language who are eligible, they like it when you don't vote because they tend to vote Democratic. And so I don't care how someone votes, but I will do whatever I can to make that process easy. But when someone says to me, my vote won't matter, registering to vote won't matter, and I just get frustrated because it does. Because if 20, 30, 40, 50, and growing number of people exercise that right together, there's power in that. And really, power is power to the people. Is real. It's not just a slogan. Because it's the numbers. People go out in numbers, and that's kind of where we're going with this race, this presidential primary race, and the presidential politics that's going on right now. More people are younger and who have disenfranchised are going to be heading to the polls this year.
And you know what the funny thing is? It's not funny, but the interesting thing is a lot of people, like we were talking before, the show, they talk about, Donald Trump and saying, oh my God, he's a joke. But then in saying so, people fail to go and vote so that he doesn't win. He's going to win if people don't go out and, exercise their voting rights as well as what it is that they stand for. That's where the country is going. And I say that about, not just about him, because then, he so happens that a lot of people talk about him at this point, but that's the importance of voting, of being involved.
Right, exactly. I think that I'm not a big fan of saying his name, but because we're in a show. When Mr. Trump does whatever his latest thing is, the next incendiary thing, the next crazy thing that comes out of his mouth, he's very deliberate because he's looking for reaction. Because from what I've been able to glean from this whole campaign on the Republican side, is that he is just kind of pushing the limits each day. I kind of almost envision him waking up each day and saying, okay, what kind of crazy thing can I say today? And how are they going to react? Because he is, he's been compared to all sorts of dictators and stuff and, horrible human beings. I just think that he's an opportunist, and he's utilizing this platform to promote his own brand. And it kind of it's kind of messed up the whole presidential politics, because he's a distraction from all talking about the things that matter.
Well, you know what? Let's take a quick break, because then I am thinking with the kind of generation that we have today that don't want to conform to the old way of doing things, and this is the way that it's supposed to be. He's also shaking it all up to make it a different way. You know what? People now need to talk about things, to be open, to change things. So let's talk about that after a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
As a youth motivational speaker, author, and coach, Dr. Stem understands that in a world where today's youth and parents are jaded and disappointed by institutions and people they perceive as out of touch with the reality of their lives, motivation is a dose that is much needed. It's time to excel. Dr. Stem Malatini is a refreshing change from the typical speaker. Dr. Stem understands the pressures, heartaches, temptations, hopes, and dreams of the generation that is just now coming of age. Students listen in transfixed silence as she speaks with the clarity and confidence of someone who has worked with teens, parents, and teachers for over 20 years. Her high-energy school assembly programs create a defining moment for schools and provide an experience students never forget. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmmalatini@gmail.com or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
So before we went on break, we were talking about politics, which we'll be talking about for the rest of the show. But we spoke specifically about Donald Trump and how he's probably changing the way that politics is run and campaigned in the United States at this point. And I was saying to you, I mean, do you see, and what do you see about him taking us out of the box? And you're like, out of the box? You know, can you talk about that? Because I think he's taking politics out of the box.
I think that he's actually created a new way of running. It seems very uncomfortable for the people that are used to, at least on the GOP side, that are used to things being a certain way, and they don't know how to deal with him. If you say anything to his face or on Twitter, I mean, this whole Pope thing was just crazy. Like, who would have ever thought that a presidential candidate would accuse the Pope of the things that Donald Trump has been saying? It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of presidential politics and politics on the local level. And it's really framing a conversation that is giving a lot of people who haven't ever really felt like they've been able to express themselves a voice. And whether I like the voice or not, some of it's pretty out there. I mean, there were pictures of KKK people at the Nevada caucus caucusing for Donald Trump, and it just never. Every day, I'm never surprised at what is coming out, because he's got support from all different parts of the party and outside the party, and you know, young people have an opportunity to take ownership in this election as to who will best represent them. I don't think that Donald Trump is the person that's going to make sure there's, you know, money for education, there's going to be jobs when kids graduate, because this has been a big problem. Kids graduating from college and living, you know, with mom and dad because they can't find a job. That's something that I don't think that Donald Trump is going to make happen. I mean, I just saw today something along the lines of there's some kind of, it was some kind of construction, and he basically made 500, his company made 500 visas available for foreigners to come in to do those jobs in this new construction that he's doing. And I'm just like, how is this man going to say 1 second that he's going to create jobs, which young people desperately need, and then on the other side go and, you know, invite people from outside the United States to come and take those jobs? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So I think, you know, The other thing that I wanted, and thank you for that answer. The other thing that I wanted to, the audience to know is Marsha is actually running for election this coming Tuesday, March 1st.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about, that running that you're doing. One, what are you running for? The position that you're running for, and why it's important. Yeah, and why it's important for people to come out and vote for you is probably what I want to know.
Well, the position is called Massachusetts Democratic State Committee. So there are two, one male and one female seat, because it's, we have rules and we do a gender balance. So there's a male seat and a female seat.
Okay.
And this is every 4 years when there's a presidential election, we elect our party, the Democratic Party, elects a male and a female to serve on the state committee. And what the state committee is, it's basically the legislature for the Massachusetts Democratic Party. We decide on our platform, the things that are important to us, how we want to use our resources, pipeline to developing new candidates, good candidates who can win elections. I think it's really important to also focus on how to engage youth, because a lot of new voters that come in are often registered as independent, but they're really Democrats. And how do we want to engage them? And so one of the reasons why I'm running is because I started, in college being an activist, and I was maybe 19, 20 years old. And I really got how powerful it is to be able to speak your truth and to be passionate about the issues that matter, and being able to articulate that in a way that other people will get on board and organize and make change. And so I've never really seen that happen on the right side. And by the right, I mean the GOP, the Republicans. I've seen a lot of change in my lifetime. Marriage equality in Massachusetts is a great example. That did not happen because people just sat around. Democrats really worked on that. And a lot of young people knocked on doors and did the kind of work that needed to get done to make that happen. And those kinds of things I strongly believe in, and I think that I have a unique set of skills. Being the chair of a committee, I understand what goes on the grassroots level, and it really helps to have that kind of background in order to make change. And I've knocked on doors, and I've worked on campaigns, and I remember being a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, again, this is going to give away my age, person in the ballroom when Bill Clinton won the first time. So you can figure out how old I am. But being so excited that I finally found a candidate that I could get behind. And so much has happened between then and now, but there's so much opportunity for young people in the Democratic Party. And I really want to invite and engage and really help them feel like that could be their home.
Thank you for that. And as I stated at the beginning of the show, what we want to do is to educate you, the community, to educate the world on why it's important to get involved in politics, in making sure that, change happens in your country, in your city, in your state. So Marsha Finkelstein will be running on next Tuesday, March 1st. And one of the other things I wanted to also mention is, if there are any other candidates out there, it's probably too late for this upcoming election, and you want to educate the community about your party, what you stand for, then feel free to contact us at drstem14@gmail.com, or you can actually just call Salem Access Television in Salem, Massachusetts, and let them know that you want to be a part of this show. Why should you vote for Marsha? I'm going to take this minute because you contacted us, so I don't see no reason why we shouldn't, let the people know who you are. She's a lifelong Democrat. She has a Master's of Science in Nonprofit Management and a Bachelor of Arts in TV and Radio Communication. That's interesting. With a minor in Political Science. She's a business owner and entrepreneur. Has been chair of the Salem Democratic City Committee since 2013, and she was the secretary of the committee from 2011 to 2013. She also has been a political activist and grassroots organizer for 25 plus years. I actually, zoomed in on that part as a social worker, because then I'm like, oh, grassroots, 25 years, activist, woo. So I commend you for being that. She's also a member of the Massachusetts Democratic State Committee's Field Services Subcommittee and has been a national, regional, and local campaign field and local coordinated campaign organizer. Quite a mouthful. How can people get in touch with you to get involved?
It's pretty easy. I'm all over Facebook and Twitter. You can also reach me by calling me. It's real easy. It's 978-219-9890. The election is Tuesday, March 1st, and I will be on the presidential ballot for the Democratic primary. So just for clarification's sake, anyone that wants to vote in the Democratic primary, whether you're a Hillary supporter or a Bernie supporter or anybody, or you want to write someone in, doesn't really matter. You need to be eligible. So you need to be a Democrat or you need to be what's called as unenrolled. Some people refer to that as independent. So you just have to be careful because you may be registered in an actual party that is the United Independent Party, which is part of, it's a separate party. You would not be eligible to vote in the Democratic primary if you are a member of that party. I don't think a lot of people are. Okay. But most people that refer to themselves as independent are actually, the term is unenrolled. So you would go to the polls, and the polls are open Tuesday, March 1st between 7 and 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., just to be clear. And you would ask for a Democratic ballot. Now, logistically, I'm sorry, you may, if you aren't a regular voter, you may be in an inactive list. So make sure you bring an ID. Just in case.
Just
so you
in case.
Don't get disenfranchised when you go to the polls, because the last thing we want is for you to get turned away and disappointed, because you're young. We want to engage you. We don't want to disappoint you.
We're talking politics today. We're talking politics. So you know what? We're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
How much difficulty do you have getting your employees or your customers to listen to the solutions you can offer? This may be one of the great frustrations in business. It's time to excel. Dr. Stem now offers solutions with her Soft Skills Leadership Training Program and the Women's Executive Leadership Training Program. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmalattini@gmail.com. or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
Time goes by fast when you're having fun. We're learning about politics today, and the interesting part is we do have a special guest, Marsha Finkelstein, who's also running for election next week, Tuesday, March 1st, 2016, right here in Massachusetts. We're going to talk to her about what districts she's running, what cities of people are eligible, but most of all, I want her to give us her phone number again, which she said before the break, nice and slowly, and it's going to be right at the bottom of the screen for you to contact her as well as her website. What is that phone number?
That would be 978-219-9890.
And the website?
The website's easy, as long as you can spell my name. It's www.marshafinkelstein.com. So it's spelled MARSHAFINKELSTEIN, MarshaFinkelstein.com.
Marsha
And all my social media is connected to that. You can send me messages there. I have an email address, a personal email address that I use. It's marshafink@hotmail.com. And either way, whatever works for you. It's all about the hashtags.
Yeah.
It's all about the hashtags. I'm very social media savvy, and I really try real hard to make sure that people are hearing what the trends are.
Tell us about the hashtags. Tell us about the hashtags.
So if you want to know what's going on in mass politics.
Yep.
Number one hashtag.
Yep.
Hashtag MAPOLI, MAPOLI.
Okay.
What is that? Anything that has to do with Massachusetts politics. Okay. Boom.
There you go.
For me, because I'm a Democrat, I often use the hashtag MassDems, hashtag MassDems. stands for the Massachusetts Democratic Party.
So that's DEMS.
Yes, MASSDEMS. Yes.
Okay, all right. My hashtaggers out there, because you know how it is. It's all about hashtags. We're talking to you, the younger generation, and I'm talking about 18 to about 35, 40. We still are, the younger generation, because you are the ones that are making a difference in this, politics, whether it's right now preliminaries that are going on next Tuesday, or in the presidential elections that are upcoming. That younger generation is making a difference. So it's important that you understand how politics work. Why is it that you need to be involved, and what difference is going to be made with your vote? It counts, is one thing that we've learned about today, that your vote counts. But I just want you to talk about, let's say Marsha wins next Tuesday. Yeah, you won the elections.
Yay, vote for me.
As an advocate of the younger generation, talk to me about how you're going to influence the decision makers in the Democratic Party in Massachusetts to make a difference to the younger generation. What do we expect if Marsha is representing us?
Well, I want you to expect a lot.
Okay.
I want you to expect a lot from me. I want you to expect that I'd be hitting the schools, going to the high schools and helping kids get registered to vote, and explaining to them in a nonpartisan way what it means when you register to vote, working with the schools, but also working with the colleges. We have 4 in this district, because I would be representing the 2nd Essex district, which is made up of the cities and towns of Beverly, Danvers, Peabody, Salem, and Topsfield. So it's 5 cities and towns.
Okay.
And engaging the young people in those communities and their families, because when you talk politics at home, you learn. Like, I have friends who grew up in political families, and they have a strong understanding. So not only is it important for young people to be engaged, but also to have those conversations at home so they can figure out what is it that matters to them. Not just like, how is this going to affect me personally, but how is this going to affect my family? How is this going to affect our community? And further out. So I think that the more educated a young person is, in that very broad, grouping that you mentioned of age, the better off we're all going to be, because, in 10, 15, however many years, when it's my turn to take, to retire, I want to be able to know that we have some good people running the show.
Okay. So, Mr. Trump says, go back to Africa, go back to where you're coming from. You're not valuable in this country. You're not making a difference. What does Marsha say? Because we are here already. Forget the ones that are not here yet. But there are millions of us here already, including myself, that are already here, that are U.S. citizens, that can go out and vote. Talk to us about how valuable we are as foreigners that are already in this country and now eligible to vote.
Well, vote for a Democrat. I am not shy about who I'm supporting in the primary. It's not really that relevant right now, but whoever, it's not that I'm a party line kind of gal. I understand what's at stake. When you hear, whether it's Donald Trump or any of the other Republicans, the stuff that they say, the rights they want to take away, women's rights, people of color, they want you to be less than. And they want, a certain segment of the population to have all the privilege and all the money and all the, benefits and da-da-da. And I just think that that's wrong. It's wrong for America. It's wrong for us individually. And look at us. You and I have been friends for a while.
For years.
And I don't really see that you're a different color. I just see that you're my friend. You're a smart, intelligent, woman, and you have something to contribute, and so do I. And how can we help people work together? When you're talking about, people from other countries that are immigrants that are eligible to vote and citizens, we need to vote for a Democrat, because the Democrats will have the best chance of continuing the policies that this president, who's done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, has been working for, the last 8 years. And love him or hate him, he's been a very effective president. And I was a supporter from the get-go. And if there was another option that was better, I would say, yes, let's do that. But whoever the nominee is, I say that's the guy or the gal
Okay.
to go for.
All right. You heard it all here. We are on the Dr. Stem Show, and what we were doing was to educate you on politics. We're not endorsing Democrat, Republican, Independent, or anything on the Dr. Stem Show. What we are endorsing is education so that everyone has open education, because when you know, you do better. When you know why you're voting, who you're voting for, you vote better, knowing that what you're voting for. So I want to thank you for coming in today and talking to us about the democratic aspect of what they can do for the younger generation. And I hope I can get somebody else from the other parties to come up and talk to us about their point of view and how they can help our younger generation. So the best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Once again, those that want to vote from you will be coming from what areas so they know?
The cities and towns of Salem, Peabody, Danvers, Beverly, and Topsfield.
Okay.
And they have to be either a registered Democrat or a registered as unenrolled.
Okay.
And if you're not sure where you're voting, you can go to Where Do I Vote MA, and you can find out your polling location very easily.
Why do I vote?
Where do I vote MA? You just Google that, and it'll send you a link to the State Secretary of State's office so that you can know exactly what your polling location is.
Awesome. Vote for Marsha. If anything, today we learned a lot about politics, and what I would like for you to do is to go to her website and learn more about politics, because as you can see, she is a wealth of information. So I want to thank you again for coming to the Dr. Stem Show.
Thank you for having me.
Until then, thank you for watching the Dr. Stem Show.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Stem Show. Have a terrific week.